Hornsby Shire is quite a big area. It extends from North Epping in the south all the way up to Wiseman's Ferry. So it's
Wiseman's
huge.
Ferry, that's on the way to Newcastle, isn't it?
Yeah. And interestingly, one of the wards is, I think, almost 3 times the size of the other two combined. So, yeah, quite big. It's very much a blue ribbon area. Has been for donkey's years. But it's called the Bushland Shire for a reason. We have a really strong environmental bent, and we love our trees. We're in fact planting 25,000 of them by 2020, which cool little plug for council there.
Very cool. Cool plug.
And we love our rural lands and our heritage, and the community is very active around all of those things. We're also very keen on our sports, as you might have guessed.
I read online, Joey, that are you third generation to Hornsby?
I am indeed, yeah. So my grandparents came out back in the 50s or 60s, and we've been here ever since. Same home that they bought back then. So,
actually, maybe you kind of sound a little bit similar to Noosa, except obviously bigger. Because I was looking online because, you go to Anthony Green because Anthony Green knows everything. And it's like the Liberal person who's there has got an 18% margin, and our area is kind of similar. We've always been rusted on, LNP in Queensland, and yet, so you've got, quite a bit of wealth, etc. Though not a lot, but it's still extremely conservative, yet really, really green. And I've never kind of quite been able to work that out, how so many people who are so green will still vote Liberal. Like, it kind of seems like you're voting against your own interests to a certain degree. Do you have a similar... Like, it sounds like Hornsby's kind of similar, and I've never been able to work it out. Have you?
No, absolutely. And actually, that's something I think about a lot. I'm a big fan of the old 1960s classic Skippy, but any of you remember that?
Yeah, and, now it's going to be stuck in my head. Thanks for that.
If you actually watch a lot of that, this is, decades and decades ago, there is actually a really strong environmental message in there, and, obviously a much more conservative time. I think, over the years since that era, we've really sort of in our head attached environmentalism with progressives and the left and all that, but, it never necessarily was that in the past. And, you do get a lot of old-fashioned liberals, as it were, who do care about the environment, which is nice.
Yeah,
I just wish they'd do more for climate change.
No, we have that too. Like most of the people who actually run Noosa Parks Association, etc., are actually elderly liberals and people like that, which is why I've sort of never quite been able to sort of put the two together. I wonder if it's because, like, I know from our local papers here, anyone who sort of is advocating green, as in just plain environment in their own backyard, are considered sort of responsible. But anyone actually advocating green or the environment as an entity as such are always considered activists. And activists are scary. Is that your sort of take on that, or what?
I'd agree with that, definitely. Yeah, absolutely. And it's a sad thing, really.
Quick side note: we've got a tweet from Denise. She said, "For me,
Hello,
Hornsby." For me, Hornsby is now associated with Ruddock. What's it like dealing with him?
Oh,
yeah. Look, it's been interesting. I'd like to think we work fairly well, constructively.
hang on.
The council does as a whole.
Hang on. How come you have to deal with Ruddock?
Yeah. So, a bit of background. For everyone
remember
listening,
when you answer questions, remember we're in Queensland. We have no clue.
Yeah. Fair point. So Philip Ruddock, the former immigration minister over the Howard government's time, was elected at the last election as our new mayor. So he basically runs the show in Hornsby at the moment. And yeah, look, it's an interesting experience.
Okay, so that's why a lot of people were really cranky on Auspol when he got given that religious review, and everyone's saying, well, how's he got time to do that? I remember seeing he was mayor. I didn't remember seeing where he was mayor of. But as you said, so even as mayor, it's not a full-time job.
Well, mayors, so a councillor's role is considered part-time. Mayor's role is, at least in Hornsby, considered 3/4 time, which is an interesting one. But yeah, I mean, look, it's one of those things. I do believe, there's certainly space to do other things and carry out the role of mayor. But gosh, I wouldn't envy anyone in that position. That's a lot of work.
So what's he like to actually work with? I mean, obviously a lot of us on Auspol don't have fond memories of Ruddock.
No. Well, look, it's definitely, I was expecting something completely different than the reality. And, we've managed to work quite well on a range of things, like the trees, for instance.
So Ruddock was big on the trees.
Yeah. He was very much the driving force. Credit where credit's due.
Really?
Behind the whole 25,000 trees by 2020 thing. Yeah. So basically, prior to the last election, what led to us having 2 Greens, 2 Labor, and Independent on a council like this was we were really losing our bushland in the Bushland Shire. And there was very much a real push by our voters to try and regain a lot of that lost canopy. And we had some alternative targets we could have hit, but every single councillor in the room, when the decision was made, wanted to go as high as possible. And hence 25,000 by 2020.
So Liberals who aren't big fans of the environment are at ground level.
Yeah, that's I was pleasantly surprised by that myself.
Well, it goes to show that it's the people, not the party, which is what we're always trying to talk about particularly on like Auspol on Twitter, but just personally, Noely and I are always trying to talk about that because when our friend Lucy was running for Labor for Wide Bay, I personally was helping her a lot, and people were sort of going, oh, you're a Labor supporter, and I'm like, no, I'm a Lucy supporter. Lucy would be good for our area. It's not a matter of fact that it's Labor, it's Lucy. And I feel like there's actually, and I don't think, I love Lucy, but I don't think she's some special snowflake, unique individual. Like, I think a lot of politicians are like that down at their core. It's not necessarily just the party. It's just when it goes up a bit higher that we see that a lot. And I feel like, because we interact with lots of councillors up here on the Sunshine Coast as well, and I feel like it's the same way. There aren't that many that are just straight up, we follow the party and that's it. There are quite a few that follow what they believe.
How does that go, Joe? I don't really know the Greens that well. How do they go when it comes to sort of like party line? Do you have to follow them sort of, religiously, or do you get to actually be your own person as well, or, do you have to pass everything by them first before, like did you have to get permission to come on here?
No, well, and again,
should you have gotten permission to come on here?
Or maybe I feel like there's probably someone listening in that will send me a stern email. No, no, the reality is, look, we are very much independent on the local government level. I don't know what it's like for the other parties, but obviously we've got a set of beliefs and attitudes, recorded in our policies, our 4 pillars, all that sort of good stuff. So that gives us a sort of general guiding hand, direction to take.
But it's a guiding hand and direction. It's not a drone-like type thing.
No, exactly. And the important thing to remember is, well, at least from my experience on local council, it really isn't as much based on party lines as you'd think. A lot of the stuff you're dealing with, isn't a matter of, Liberal, Labor, Greens, independent. It's, things that you really got to make your own mind up about. And
do you think that's going to change more, though, trying to go at a state level instead of just local council?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, obviously there's a raft of different policies and all that you'd have to follow at state level. That's going to be an interesting change. There's a few things that I'm obviously quite excited to start campaigning on, but I can't quite share those just yet. You'll hear about them soon. But,
how's it going to go when, obviously, as I said, you're going up to a state level now? When I'm not trying to put you on the spot, and you're
right.
Sweet, but I mean, obviously, in recent times, it's kind of looked like, particularly in like Melbourne City and Sydney City, that the Greens have had a bit of a cultural problem when it comes to sort of, I don't know, accountability when complaints are made about harassment, things like that. Do you ever have anything to do with sort of that admin, or are you on the periphery? And, because that's going to make it really difficult, because, I mean, obviously, we're friends, but, sooner or later you're going to get media asking you those sort of things. And, I mean, we know you. We know that you would never, ever disrespect a woman. You're probably one of the biggest fans of female sport. Hello.
Not to mention he was at the Pride March.
And the Pride March. Yeah, we know you're a terribly
ticking
respectful
all the boxes.
person. But do you worry that some of that's going to rub off on you and make life harder for you?
Look, no, I don't. I think, we have had difficulties with these sorts of things in recent times. But then, most parties have at one point or another. It's sort of a growing pain, as it were. We're sort of, reviewing our internal processes and making sure that these sorts of things, don't happen in the future. I think at the end of the day, that's what really matters. Me personally, I don't have, much to do with that side of things. That's very much, internal party stuff. I'm very much on the periphery. I'm out here with the local group. But look, I don't necessarily see it will hurt us as much as people might think. At the end of the day, there's so many of us out there on the ground, working to make the world a better place. And look, we've had these problems, but for every one of those individuals, there's 10 others who are just fantastic and committed and, really genuine about trying to make the party and the political scene as good as possible.
I got the impression, reading a lot of, obviously following that sort of stuff, that a lot of the problems come from the Greens sort of taking that next step to trying to be a bigger party and not having all the sort of admin and checks and procedures that a larger party or a larger business would have in place to handle these sort of things happening. Is that what it's really like, or am I being too kind?
No. Well, as I said, growing pains. We are, growing as a party quite fast in the scheme of things. And, these sorts of things are, unfortunately, kind of going to happen as we, progress on that journey.
So the reports where you're losing members, that's not happening to you in your area? You're still getting support?
Yeah, I mean, look, I won't speak for other areas, but in Hornsby, we're blessed with an incredible local group. They've remained energetic and positive throughout the recent events, and they're all 100% committed,
Cool.
It's really nice to see.
Cool.
That is nice to see because, according to Daisy Cousins on Sky News last night, apparently...
I'm just going to interject. Caitlin has a thing about Daisy, for those of you who don't know yet.
Yeah, well, she interrupted my gym session last night on Sky News. She was brought on as the resident young person to talk about BuzzFeed, which is a young person thing, apparently.
Oh.
And, she basically blamed all of people losing their jobs at BuzzFeed and BuzzFeed not making money on basically the Greens Green supporters and all those lefties who don't want to